Hey, thanks for dropping by to the Planners on Purpose podcast, created by Naomi Tucker, CMP. Now, this space is for the event planners to encourage and empower you so that you can fully live your life on purpose. So before we dig in, please take a moment to subscribe so you get future shows. Now, here she comes, your host, Naomi.
Welcome everyone to the Planners on Purpose podcast. I'm Naomi Tucker, your host, and I'm excited to be with you today. We are going to talk about mentorship today. We have a special guest named Lynne Reznick, and Lynne is a professional photographer for weddings, and she has a lot to offer, and she has such a special story, and I'm excited to have you hear it. But wanted to jump into a little bit about her before we get into our episode today. Lynne was named the top photographer for weddings by Boston Weddings magazine. She has also been featured in publications such as The Knot, Wedding Wire, Wedding Sparrow, and much more. She was inspired by her own love story to be a part of others through photography, and it's super special. And her journey did start with mentorship, which is why she shares a passion for that. So today we're going to hear all about mentorship, what mentorship looks like, how you can structure your own mentorship program, and if you're interested in supporting event professionals through mentorship, this is an episode for you. I can't wait to see what your takeaways are as a result of listening to this episode. So without further ado, let's connect and meet Lynne. Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Lynne Reznick, whose own love story and marriage helps her inspire her to document the love of other soulmates. So welcome so much, Lynne, to the Planners on Purpose podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Naomi. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Excited to have you. I must say, photography is something that I definitely love. My husband, he's a photographer too.
So fun.
Yes. And I love how it just brings so much to life, how photography does that. And I would love to hear and have our audience hear a little bit about your story before we jump into our topic today. So could you share your journey?
Sure. So I actually went to college for teaching, and I was a high school history teacher for 10 years out after college, and started my business like year 9 of teaching, started my photography business and really got into it by way of my own wedding. So that what you said about my own love story, like, has multiple facets of being true for how I got into the industry and why I love capturing weddings. We were planning our wedding in 2008, and in like exploring photography for our wedding, really discovered a love for it. I had always been into the visual arts and really passionate about them, but had never owned a DSLR camera before, anything like that. So soon after our wedding, I ended up getting my first camera and was lucky enough to have my wedding photographer take me under her wing and take me along to several weddings with her. And it wasn't a formalized mentorship per se, but she really did become a mentor for me. So I got to transition into doing weddings that way. So I was still teaching, but had summers off. And that's when in New England, where I am, the summers heat up for weddings. So it was really a perfect complement to be able to do it part-time. And then I did it part-time for 5 or 6 years before going full-time in 2017. And now I've been full-time since 2017.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's definitely the journey. And it's so great for you to have that mentorship that was there to get you into that field, into photography. So that was really fun.
Yes. I mean, there's just so much to learn, and there were so many aspects of it, from the technical side of photography to the business side. And you can eventually do that through courses or going back to school or, learning on the job and those kinds of things. But it was really amazing to just be able to fast forward in some ways my growth and confidence level to launch my own thing by having that year of experience shadowing her, working in her studio as well, and learning directly from her.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2017, you started full time, and how has that been for you since? Did everything open up the way you wanted to when going full time?
It was really amazing to take the leap to full time, definitely scary,
Hmm.
but amazing in so many ways because you stop having to do things from 8 p.m. to midnight and after grading papers or things like that. So getting and just having more time and energy to devote wholly to the business, doing it for like as a side hustle for as long as I did, I was wondering kind of like, well, how will I actually fill my days? And is there enough to do that warrants this? And I think my family definitely thought that as well. Like, how do you actually do this as a thing full time? The truth is that there's so many things to be doing in order to make your business thrive and to move it ahead that time got filled really quickly. I still struggle sometimes to find enough time in the day for all the things you want to do.
Hmm.
But it was really wonderful to actually be able to pour into that as I transitioned into that as more of a passion. And yeah, no, it's not without struggle. I mean, the pandemic was interesting to say the least. And
And that was 2 years in, right? Into you going
yeah,
full time. So how did that change things, the dynamic?
I mean, it really just slammed to a halt in a lot
Mm.
of ways, which I think it did for a lot of people. And it was a lot of working with couples to be as supportive as possible, but also figure out my own lines in the sand or holding to a contract, but still being a human. All
Mhm.
those kind of hard things as we navigated that together, at least at first. And then in 2021, it opened up a lot again, despite the fact that we were still dealing with the unknown and some
Mhm.
of the pandemic effects. And I had my busiest season yet, was, figuring out a whole new level of how to manage that much work, that much business, which is a great problem to have.
Mhm.
But it certainly helped me then hone in on some of the lessons learned at the end of the season where I was just feeling a little bit more worn out than I normally do.
Mhm.
How about you? Did you have like a similar thing? How has the pandemic been for you?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the same, where things really came to a halt and really figuring out, uh, what clients are going to get us through the pandemic and
Hmm.
which ones aren't. And it was interesting, the dynamic of people that stayed on, did meetings through the pandemic versus those that did not. But yes, now I think it's a completely different challenge. It's,
Yeah.
hey, there's so much business. How are we going to, either take it all in or be selective as to what we take in just because of, the limit on resources right now. So it definitely has affected. I've never seen this ever in the history of our industry. I've been in the industry for a while, but totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, yeah. Still a sustainability issue. It's just the other
Mhm.
side of it, right? Is how do
Mhm.
you manage an almost this overwhelming flow of work and opportunity coming in and sustain yourself and not get burnt out
Yeah.
on that other end. Like for example, one of the things that I learned is that I really personally don't like photographing weddings in the cold, and so um, and when it gets dark past like daylight savings time, and then also I really want to be done with editing well before the holidays set in. And so for all of these various reasons, I've
Mhm.
decided to have a hard cutoff for myself now in booking with daylight savings time. That's going to be my last weekend
Oh,
when
okay.
that shift happens in the first weekend of November.
Mhm.
And that was a lesson learned last year. I had a wedding on December 4th last year, so I was shooting weddings all through November and early December, and it was such a stressful hustle to try to make it to Christmas
I
with
bet.
nothing left to edit. So that was a good like takeaway and a perfect example, I think, of me trying to listen to my own limits and what's actually working for me and what's not.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's really good. I think it's a good example for a lot of people, that sometimes you have to do what works best for you and be aware of how you thrive in when taking care of your business, and really making it work in a way that is going to help support you and support your clients. So
Yep, yep,
I love
yep.
that. Absolutely love that. So I know that today we're going to talk a little bit about mentorships, and I'm excited to talk about that with you because there's so much passion, I believe, in the industry, especially in event planning and then just in the event industry in particular. So I wanted to just start with your journey and how that was so effective to you. I know we talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but if we want to go a little bit deeper and just talk about how was that mentorship journey and how important was it for you in order for you to really take that step into photography?
Yeah, the mentorship that I kind of fell into at the start, like I said, it wasn't formalized necessarily, but that's really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That was integral in me being able to start my business, not only like starting it on the right foot in so many ways in terms of having contracts in place and knowing how to get started legally and learning how to serve clients well and what a workflow might look like and all of those pieces, but also for my confidence. Weddings are such important days in a couple's life that I take them really seriously, and I have always taken them really seriously. And so it was nerve-wracking to think about jumping into that like unprepared, right? I was taking on a lot of portrait sessions and engagements, and a few of those couples actually asked me if I would photograph their wedding, and I said no to start because I just didn't feel ready to do that well for them. So that mentorship was so essential in helping me gain that confidence to know what I was doing in different situations and feel like I could deliver for a couple on the day. And then also all of that business stuff you're learning alongside it. So it was really great to be able to be in the studio and see an editing process. It was just a way of learning and failing and trying new things, but not messing anyone's wedding up all at the same time, right? Which is really hard.
Yep.
It's one of those chicken and egg things in the industry sometimes, is you try to jump in, or, it's hard. People want experience. They want to see that you have that, but you can't get that, right? Without
Right,
maybe
exactly.
going in before you're ready. And so this was a really great way of being able to kind of do both. My mentor literally said to me, she was just like, on our first wedding together, she was like, I mean this in the best possible way, but I don't need your photos. So it doesn't matter. Like, try stuff, fail. It doesn't matter if none of your photos come out. I don't need them. So I just want you to focus on like learning and absorbing, ask questions when, there's time, but don't put pressure on yourself to need to figure it all out right away.
Yeah, yeah. And so with mentorship, does it always look like that? I think like you had a special situation where you had someone that's able to take you under their wing and you were able to be there. You were able to fail if you needed to. And I think that's really important to mentorship too. But how do mentorships look? I feel like there might be different types of mentorships and how those relationships are. Can they look a little different than the way you've had it?
They definitely can. And I think the core that runs through them is just recognizing that it's a long-term relationship that you're building with someone. When we think about mentorship and we use that word sometimes in the industry, we're talking about offering like a 3-hour, advising session as a quote mentorship. And that's just not really the right way, I think, to use that term. It's more about building a relationship over time and being able to guide and support somebody as they continue to learn over time. So keeping that in mind, it can definitely look different or take different forms. In fact, I offer a mentorship program now to one person each year. And I do it as a year-long commitment because I do really want them to come with me over the course of a year. And it's 2 parts. So it's coming along on wedding days with me as an assistant and third photographer.
Okay.
And then I do quarterly coaching sessions that are 2 hours each. So 8 hours of coaching or advising over the year in those 2-hour chunks of time. And that gives us a chance to dig into the back end workflow, editing, all the things that they don't have a chance to talk through on a wedding day, because wedding days are, busy and
Crazy.
focused on the couple. Yeah. Busy and focused on the couple. So they're there to learn on the job in the one sense. And then we have this opportunity to really dive deep into business questions and back end questions and things like that during those coaching sessions. And then I know that some people, one of the other things I do offer are And that's for free, that one, I should say, that one person that I take on there, we're exchanging, right? They're helping me as an assistant and I'm sharing education and support and mentoring. Another option is to do paid mentoring that people offer as well. And I do something like that too. And I know a lot of people have that kind of a format where it's more, you may not be on site at a wedding or an event, but you do get those quarterly or monthly, that ongoing support where you're setting goals, checking in, and just having that accountability and somebody to ask advice to consistently over time as you work towards bigger goals. That's another, I think, really powerful way to be mentored as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so many ways to do it. And I feel like there's so much passion in the industry. Does one have to, let's say, have a passion for the industry or whatever they're choosing to mentor in order to mentor? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I hope they do. Right? You don't want to be mentored by somebody who's like on their way out and it's just like, oh, I'm so over this and I hate everything about it. Like that would be such a bummer. But yeah, I think having a passion for it is important because part of what you are imparting as a mentor is a love for that craft and for that field. And I think that is important. If you're doing it well, you're going to have that passion for it, I would hope, right? I think things start to fall apart when you start to lack that passion. And so hopefully you're bringing that to it. The other thing you do need to have passion for as well, though, is being a teacher or being a mentor and providing a safe space for that mentee to learn. And like I said, to fail and to try again. It doesn't always have to look the same, like depending on what you do and how that works. And you can limit their exposure to your clients directly and things like that. It could just be, like I said, in those advising sessions over time. But it's important that even if you're charging money for it, I think that you need to be passionate for the pouring into somebody else, the helping someone else succeed, not just, making money as another like revenue stream in your business.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I only say that because I know some people do, and they enjoy the industry and they're in it. And I'm pretty sure that there's some level of passion that's there. But sometimes they're told, hey, you probably want to try to take on a mentor. And it's more of a leadership it's just like a leadership thing to go ahead and have a mentor. But it's not always for everybody. So I like the fact that you said, hey, you want to be passionate about teaching because it's different when you're mentoring someone versus just showing one person what to do one time. Sometimes it's that repetitive and that teaching that you have to do with that individual. So I'm excited that you did bring that up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's beneficial in the long term. And even just thinking about, I think those one-off things can be really effective as advising sessions, but having someone along for the day, I tried that, having somebody shadow for just one wedding. And that was just tricky. I didn't find that it's hard to answer questions during the day, right? So a lot of things they were maybe learning just by seeing what was going on. And we had a chance to like chat over dinner briefly, but you really do need to build that long-term piece in and have that patience to nurture that relationship and be able to answer those questions as they come up. Plus, every wedding is so different, right? That you learn there's going to be new questions that come up every time. This scenario popped up 4 weddings in that just didn't happen at the first 3. And so how do you handle that situation?
Exactly.
Those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just talk about the event industry for a moment. Now that we're in the position where we're post-pandemic, there are a lot of people that chose to leave the industry, but we do see a big influx of new planners and new event professionals that are coming in. So wanted to talk about why mentorship is so important at this very moment and what your thoughts were on that.
My gosh. Yeah. This is why I love being able to talk about mentorship and talk about how beneficial it can be, that you can make it mutual for both people to really be beneficial. I think for anyone new coming in, I just think back to myself as a newbie in the industry and how powerful it was to be able to be mentored by somebody who had been there before, who had done it, and who could kind of show me the ropes. And so that's just as important for the next generation of newbies coming in now as they, become passionate about this again and want to feed that. So there's lots more maybe formalized education out there, and there are incredible networking groups, but all of those stop at a certain point where you're not getting that super personalized opportunity to ask the questions that you really have that are going to move your business forward the best or help you improve on that personal level. So for new people, I think it's just so important to identify somebody who can be a mentor. And hopefully for people who are in the industry for a little bit longer would be willing to, start a mentorship and find that it's actually beneficial for everyone involved, and it raises the level of professionalism in our industry as a whole if we're supporting that new generation of pros coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely important, especially as things are very busy coming back in, and there's so many people that are stepping into the industry. There is a need to make sure that we're mentoring others and really kind of bringing in that wave of new professionals into the industry. So it's so very important and much needed right now. So if someone wanted to get started, how would they do that? I know you talked about perhaps having it as a service offering on their website. What if someone is already at an organization? How would they try to get involved with doing mentorship? Can you point them to some frequent resources to help them get started?
Yeah. So I think one of your best tools for finding somebody, there are so many people eager out there. I don't think it's going to be hard for you to find somebody who wants to be mentored if you're looking to offer that service. So a great way to do that is to just start putting it out into your social networks and letting people know that you'd like to support somebody or that you're now offering these services. Putting it on your website, and then help asking friends and peers in the industry to spread the word is a great way to do it. To put it out there that this is something you're looking to take on. Before you really start to spread the word, though, it's good to have in mind the way that you would like to go about it. So making some decisions about what that structure is going to look like, how much time can you commit to it? Will there be on-site event, day shadowing? Will it just be advising is it going to be monthly, quarterly, every week? What is it going to look like? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Just so you can put together a position description of sorts that really lets people know as they're applying to you or reaching out to you about being mentored, what they can expect and what that commitment level would be for them.
So just if there anything else that you wanted to share with us in regards to mentorship, anything that we haven't covered that you would like to share with the audience today?
The other thing I would just say is that if you are at all interested, or if you've been in the industry, you're looking for somebody to start supporting and pouring into, don't be shy about it. Get the word out. We need more people who are wanting, to jump into mentorship and start leading in that way. And like you said, Naomi, right, there's so many new people coming into the industry now. I just want to encourage everyone to take a look at how they might be able to start supporting someone new and, jump on that opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much. I think that this was wonderful. I always enjoy getting the word out about just mentoring others in the industry. So thank you so much for sharing that. What's next for your business? Let's talk about that. Tell us what's next with Lynne Reznick Photography.
So this year is looking to be another very busy year. And I am actually based in upstate New York now, and most of my weddings are back in Boston and Cape Cod and Massachusetts. So there's going to be a lot of traveling and just supporting my couples, doing engagement sessions, that kind of thing. Right. And then I've been getting more and more back into education, right? Back to my roots as a teacher. I love being able to really mentor one person well, but I also am looking for ways to be able to support a broader audience. So I've actually have a an online course, and I've been trying to, get out there and speak more on podcasts and more on at conferences and things like that. So I have some things in the works that I'm hoping to get out there for in 2022 and 2023.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I wish you all the best in everything that you're doing. And before you go, I just have a few quick, brief questions that I was hoping that you would kind of delight us in answering.
Sure.
Okay. So the first question is, what is your most effective morning routine?
Coffee. It starts with coffee, quite honestly. But then I actually spend about an hour in my Bible and in prayer and in quiet time in the morning. And then I've now added the Wordle of the day as a thing that I do too.
Wordle. I guess I need to get into Wordle. Everyone's into Wordle. I need to check this out.
It's really addictive. But that's how it's a set aside quiet time. And that's a really key anchor in my day for starting off right for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. The second question is, what do you do in order to prevent yourself from falling into burnout and overwhelm?
Ooh, it's a constant learning curve there. I feel like I'm an Enneagram 3, so I'm always trying to do all of the things. But having a time where I really just end work for the evening is important. And we transition. My husband and I cook together every night. So cooking dinner together and then being able to have dinner together and transition into that evening really helps. And he holds me pretty accountable for not, hopping back on that phone or checking the emails later at night, that kind of thing. So he's a good accountability partner in that too.
Oh, he's a great guy. That's awesome. I love that.
He is. He's a keeper.
Perfect. So, and my last question is, what is that one thing during the pandemic that you just found out about yourself? Everybody just has that thing where they learn to grow plants, or I don't know, they have a new show that they dug into. What was that thing during the pandemic that kind of got more attention from you?
It was slowing down, actually, that forced slowdown of just learning that I actually needed more sleep than I was getting. Because I wasn't needing to get to my desk as early and often, right? There just wasn't as much to do. I think that was probably the biggest one, that I just functioned better on 9 hours instead of 8 or 7, and knowing that about myself and figuring out how to make that work even when I got busy, because I was just so much better operating. I was so much more productive and just felt better, and all of those things. That was a big one. But it probably took me, 3 months to even get to a point where I felt like I didn't need to be at my desk for 8 hours a day. There was nothing left to be doing necessarily. And I needed to start to slow down and take advantage of time away from the computer, of becoming more of a whole person, and reading and exercising. And then that sleep, that was a big one.
Oh, wow. You said a word there, becoming a whole person. That's just so, it's so cool that you said that. So I think that everybody should just really latch on to that, to that whole person that they found during the pandemic, and really try to really keep that centered as we're getting back into this busy times. So for sure. Thank you for sharing those with us. And as we wrap up, just let everyone know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me. And I am at LynneReznickPhotography.com. And then on Instagram, it's at Lynne Reznick Photo. So that's pretty much where I spend all of my time.
Perfect. Well, and thank you so much for being on the Planners on Purpose podcast. I really appreciate having you and talking about all things mentorship. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Lynne Reznick. It was so great to hear all about mentorships, why they're important to the event industry, and how you can start a mentorship program of your own. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Planners on Purpose podcast, and I will see you on the next episode. Until next time, stay on purpose.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button and tell us how much you enjoyed the show by leaving a message in the comments. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.